In this video, we're going to get into creating the schedules for your, not schedules, but creating the actual webinars that are going to run inside of your system. So first thing you want to do is you want to determine if you want to create a new one or copy an existing one. To create a new one, just click on this. But what I'm going to do, because the functionality is the same on create and edit, I'm going to jump back here. And I'm just going to click on manage here. And what that does is it brings up the edit pane for this webinar template. On the create, you're not going to see the webinar schedule, and you're not going to see the question and answer drips until after you've saved your new template. So what we have at the very top here, when you see the create, you're going to be seeing the general settings first. We have our title, our subtitle, and our description. Those appear on this section here up at the very top, and also on this pane here on the sidebar. And this is what the customer sees when they're actually inside of the webinar. This content also appears on the registration page. If I jump back here, I'll show you what the registration page looks like. You'll see here's all the same content, and it gives the details about the time of day, and here's all the other information that was set inside the template. We have to set our presenter name. That appears on the section here. And then next we have our company name. This can actually be the marketing company name that's running the webinar. That's going to appear at the very bottom here of the template. Next is our support link. That appears inside of the webinar at the very top. Just link your customers over to the page that takes care of your support. Next is our media settings. You're going to want to upload a MP4 video to a server somewhere. Get that URL and just plug it in here, and that'll run your webinar automatically and pull from that file. Now, for tablet and mobile phone users, the webinar doesn't work very well because the technology is just not there for HTML5 inside of the mobile browsers. So we're working on that, but what happens is if a customer tries to access the webinar page, they're instantly redirected. You can determine the redirect URL here. Generally what happens here, if you push a MP4 video URL as the redirect, it's going to be not live. It's going to be a player. So what you can do is create a page somewhere and link them to a replay, or even link them to this replay. They'll give them the impression that because they can't attend a live webinar, they can see the replay page. But then again, that won't appear on mobile either. So always be cognizant of that. When you create your page, it probably should be a YouTube video, because most browsers can translate a YouTube video. Next is our attendee settings. We have our max attendees, minimum attendees, and attendees shown while active. Inside of the webinar, when the customer accesses, is when they first get on. If they're in the waiting room or they just got in when the webinar started, this is going to jump from 0 up to a max of 120. When this number drops, it'll never drop lower than 86. Now, if they leave the webinar and refresh, we want to give them the impression that people are still in there. So on the refresh, this will show as 99, and it'll actually show the max attendees as 120. So it'll start at this point and go up or down if they refreshed or came in the middle of the webinar. Next is our webinar drip settings. During the webinar, you can talk about, hey, I just sent you an image of an infographic of our product. Now, to do that, you're just going to put a title. This represents the tabs here, and you name your tab, and then you do your HTML content, and then you're going to want to set the seconds after the start of the webinar that appears. So if you want that to appear like an hour into the video, what's going to happen is you're going to have to calculate a little bit of time here. So an hour in is 60 minutes times 60 seconds. So you'd put 3,600 seconds here, and that'll appear at the same time. So when you do your video, you're going to want to check your video when you actually say that, in calculate the time, it could be like 59 minutes and 20 seconds. Calculate 59 times 60 plus the 20 seconds, and then put your time in there. Now, to not show any infographics or any pop-ups, just terminate this, and this won't appear. You have the option to add up to 3 drips, and then plus 1 call to action drip. So the call to action one is always going to be a button here, and you'll see here in this video here, it's red. That gets attention. As soon as it pops up on the screen, it actually shakes, so you can always indicate to your customers, hey, the screen just shook, we just sent you some content, and that way it's an indication to them that they just got sent something. So next we'll jump into the question and answer drip settings. Now, when a chat comes in live, well, it'll still appear here because you have the option to turn this into a static admin chat in a future webinar. Now, on this particular webinar here, you see it says, hey everyone. This was a static admin chat, so I can actually push admin chats into the system automatically. They're timed, and you don't put any question in, you just put an answer, and these are just comments from the admin. When the customer is viewing, it's going to be inside of the chat pane, but as soon as an admin chat is pushed, it'll automatically check this and show the next comment that you place. So always be cognizant of the time and when you want to drip those seconds. If you want to turn a live chat into a static chat because of a good question and a good answer, just set the seconds. It'll automatically turn into an admin chat. When you put a question and an answer, it'll always appear inside of the customer chat, which is here. If you only put the question or the answer, it's going to appear in the admin chat. To add a new Q&A, just add there the question, the answer, and the time in seconds from the start of the webinar. Click on Create Webinar, and it'll automatically create that into the system. To delete, just click on Delete, and it'll automatically delete that record from the system. You're going to want to go through and review all your questions because what happens is there might be some good content that customers are asking about and that you're responding to that can be used to help sell in that webinar. So always be aware of that. Next is our notification settings. First, I'll get into the send reminder. This will send during the registration. The customer will be sent a confirmation, but they're also, if you set a cron job, will be sent a reminder 1 hour before start. You can go up to 24 hours before the start of the webinar. I'll get into the enter notification URL in another video, and that involves ARs and triggers.